Welcome, one and all, whoever may be watching this, part 47, Tides of Numenéra. I will apologise, just at the very end of the last video there may have been a audible amount of background noise. It was just my computer fan. Apparently that battle took a lot of processing power from my poor computer. And I wasn't prepared for that at all, and wasn't expecting any kind of reaction like that. So the only thing I could do was just not talk much, but obviously when I do read stuff you will hear everything that's going on.
I'm ready.
Ahead you see a mass of bloom tongues, bigger than any you have encountered thus far. They weave gently as if beckoning you forward. Your companions hesitate, looking to you. Any advice, Makina? This thing, she says, never taking her wary gaze from it, has destroyed the lives of more people than you have ever met. It's a predator. She glances at you only briefly before returning her eyes to the bloom's tendrils. Whatever you do, stay in control, resist it. Show it you are strong, otherwise it will swallow you whole. It'll probably swallow her whole anyway, but, well, she's come this far. Is this kind of like the end battle situation? Because normally you have these debriefs with all your companions at like the very end of the game. Well, Elegant, I need you to go with me. This is your quest, Cast-Off. I won't stop you from going in there if that's what you think needs to be done, but I'll be damned if I'm going down with you. Please, I can't do this alone. I have to persuade my companions to come with me. I love this. His lips become a tight line, his shoulders droop, and he lets out a dejected sigh. Fine, but if I come out of this worse than I already am, so help me. I'll have my revenge on you. Will you go with me, Aretus? Are you kidding? I was going to ask you to follow me. Yes, let's attack this beast in its wiggly bits. Makina, let's go in together. Her eyes widen. Are you insane? She looks you up and down. Perhaps you are. I will not. The bloom is a terror. If you want what it knows, you'll have to go get it yourself. I can't do this alone. Please. She frowns. I don't believe that, but you've done good for me already. Fine. Try not to get us both killed. Yes. Let's do this. Soz guys, if you die, I apologize. Before you looms a twisted mass of tubes, arteries, roots and tongues, heaving and pulsing in the murky light. The flesh glimmers with foul shades of purple and black, pocked with pustules and necrosis. Bloom whispers gather, swarming over you like flies, buzzing and chittering and hissing. Millions of them. All the voices that comprise the bloom's mind are converging in this one place. As you step closer, bloom tongues surround you, drawing you into a wet, nauseating embrace. Though they seem solid and corporeal, they somehow pass through your flesh, thrusting into your head, your limbs, and your guts, igniting prickly, hot-cold sensations all over your body. A multitude of bloom voices hiss and babble with rage. You cannot understand their words, but their meaning is clear. You don't belong here. The voices invade your mind, sweeping aside your thoughts, establishing themselves within. Your companions groan beside you, trapped in the same embrace. I mean, I might as well intellect it. Reflexively, you let go of everything, focusing on a single mote of knowledge that the voices cannot take away. I am here. This thought is mine. The bloom voices fade into a meaningless babble as you repeat the words to yourself, and you realize that the voices are powerless to stop you. They can devour your memories or cause you pain, but they can't snuff out your conscious mind. With this realization comes strength, and you repeat the words again. They cut through the cacophony of Bloom voices. These thoughts are mine, get out. Now your inner voice drowns out theirs. The Bloom whispers turn to hisses of frustration, and they flee, shrieking in rage. The voices become more distant. They whisper and buzz to each other, barely audible, like a vast conclave that is locked away behind a heavy door. You find you can move again, albeit slowly and awkwardly, constrained by the wriggling tongues that have merged with your flesh. Let's infiltrate the Bloom's mind. I don't really know the best way to deal with this, but I'm having lots of success with my intellect, so let's rock with that. Slowly, carefully, you extend your thoughts into the tubes and conduits of the heart, gently testing your ability to contract a muscle here or widen an artery there. You can hear Bloom voices all around you, but they don't seem alarmed. Either they don't sense you at all, or they don't perceive your intrusion as a threat. As you explore the limits of your new perceptions, you try to understand the heart's composition. The fleshy nodules that serve as sensory organs, the tubes and arteries to feed the intelligence that dwells here, the roots of innumerable whispering minds that descend to this spot from every corner of the Bloom, tangled together to join their voices into a mad, chaotic union. I feel like observing is probably not a bad thing to do, maybe. So let's start with the biological system and watch for patterns. For a time, you listen carefully to the booming pulse of the heart and observe its movements, but it teaches you little more than you already know. Fluids are pumped here from elsewhere in the Bloom, and they seem to feed the many-voiced intelligence that resides in the heart. A deeper understanding of this process is beyond you, okay? The Bloom voices, and try to understand what they are. You attend closely to the innumerable voices chittering and whispering in the darkness of the Bloom's mind. Each of these voices is a tiny intelligence, a semi-autonomous piece of the Bloom's consciousness, and there are millions of them, perhaps tens of millions. The Bloom can spawn them at will, increasing its ability to think and perceive, planting them into maws and tongues and organs. It can also devour them, cannibalizing its own screaming minds. Contemplating the Bloom's intelligence as a whole, you have an impression of a mind that is always shifting, never constant, giving birth to countless fragments of itself even as it devours others. Alright, let's go for the abducted scholar first, while I've still got a degree of intelligence left. While your thoughts are joined to the Bloom's, you can almost understand its voices. A whisper will spark a fleeting image in your mind, a hiss will elicit a flash of anger or desire, or some alien emotion that you can't even comprehend. As you listen and watch, you see occasional images of a vague human figure. When you focus on them, try to hold them still. You see an isolated pocket of flesh, a cyst filled with thick black juices in which the man floats, curled up like a fetus. The cyst is wrapped carefully in fleshy tendrils and knotted muscles, watched closely by tiny chittering minds that were spawned for exactly this purpose. Let's try to gain control over the fibers and muscles. Moving slowly and cautiously, you follow the faint whispers of the tiny chittering minds that watch over Ishan. They're not far from the heart, centered around a foul little cyst, just as you suspected. When they sense you approach, they squeal in alarm, but you overwhelm and silence them. You sense the remains of trans-dimensional rift in the cyst, probably the same rift that the Bloom used to capture Ishan in the first place. It should be possible to reopen the rift and set him free, but the bloom will know when you do. Okay, so I guess if we want to do anything else, now would be the time to do it. I mean, should I try to do anything else? So I'm just examining the memories. Floating unnoticed among the bloom's innumerable voices, you allow yourself to drift deeper into its mind. It is fortunate that you observed the voices and contemplated their patterns before as you attempted this. Now that you know what they are, it's easier to understand them. As the voices whisper among themselves, you begin to see brief images, to hear sounds, and to feel hunger or satiation. These are the bloom's memories of its past. Screams echo in your ears as men and women are pulled into moors, their thoughts and personalities devoured, or simply altered, scrambled, changed into monstrous forms. You see limbs torn from bodies by eager bloom tongues, eyes plucked out so that tendrils can slide gently into their sockets to reach the brains. For a moment you see Gristler, the bloom guide, trapped in the embrace of a Moor, and you can taste the raw flesh of his legs as the Moor tears them off and devours them. You know in that moment that the bloom will eat of him again and again, reveling in the taste of his undying faith that it will provide for him, a faith that is so ill-founded. And everywhere you see and hear the Memavira, flashes of her early days, gathering followers to overthrow the old Memavira while publicly pledging her loyalty to him. Her rebellion against him as she slaughtered his people and dragged them down to the heart, binding him so that the tongues could feed upon him slowly, and all the years of her ruthless rule. In all that time she has never changed. Her face is the same now as it was when the bloom first saw her. Or do we want to drift deeper? I don't know. Refocus on the heart. I mean, do I want to take control of these other things? I've got the intellect, so why not? Quietly, cautiously, you extend your consciousness into the bloated little sacs that quiver on the surface of the heart and within its many conduits. If you wish, you could put them into a sort of slumber that would make it harder for the bloom to sense your presence. Oh, I feel like it's a bit late for that one. But I guess, why not put the sensory organs around the heart to sleep? Might help my peeps, maybe? All over the heart, the blubbery nodules slowly deflate, sinking into a torpor. To your relief, the bloom makes no sound of alarm. Okay, let's take control of the arteries. Taking great care to avoid detection, you slip your thoughts into the tubes and arteries, assuming control of them. These fluids feed the intelligences that coalesce here. If you choose to do so, you could contract the arteries at once, depriving them of energy. Sure, why not? You gradually constrict the arteries, halting the flow of fluid to the heart. Something burbles irritably within the heart, like indigestion on a grand scale. Bloom voices chitter listlessly, but they don't seem to notice what has happened. Probably because you already deadened the heart's sensory organs. Okay, let's reopen the transdimensional rift. You whisper softly to the rift and it begins to take shape again. Bloom voices shriek in alarm, but with the arteries constricted and the heart's sensory organs deadened, the bloom can do nothing to stop you.
I'm ready to learn something new.
You feel Ishan vanish from the foul little cyst. In the same moment, the air in the heart chamber ripples, a transdimensional rift tears itself into being, and a human figure topples out, dripping black juices, coughing and gagging, vomiting on the floor. You recognize the man at once. It's Mazov, the cast-off artificer that you met in Zerian Daywalker's Mere. Your first thought is that the bloom has somehow released the wrong man, but no. The Memavira deceived you. Ishan is Mazov. For the moment, Mazov is recovering from his ordeal, barely aware of his surroundings. He hasn't even seen you. I don't think there's much else I can do with the heart. Oh, okay, sorry, we've got a memory. My bad. You stand with a woman upon a circle of gold, the sky clear and blue above you, Mia Leveste. The woman is well known to you, the same woman who helped you choose this spot years before, the same woman who built this enclave with you together. Her face has changed, ravaged by time. The flesh is rotting away, exposing the glistening muscles beneath. She turns away from you as if to hide her ugliness. Not even your handiwork is proof against time. No, Malaril, you say, I have no way of fixing you, but you do not need to live in shame. You present her with the mask, its expression enigmatic, decorated with intricate patterns of gold. A pretty thing, she says, unable to hide the bitterness in her voice. I can just as well wrap my face in bandages or cover my head with a sack. She holds the mask you gave her. Put it on, you hear yourself say, and she places the mask over her face. At once it seems to meld with her flesh, and her face becomes that of a lovely young woman. Her eyes widen, knowing something has changed, and you hold up a looking glass for her to see. She laughs aloud, a sound you haven't heard from her for years. You can change your face at will, you say to her. Try it. Malaril nods, watching the looking glass carefully as her face morphs into that of an old woman, then a homely beggar lady, then a Vigellan, and a dozen more. The last face you see is dark-haired, regal in bearing. It is the face of the Memavira, accompanied by a distinct sense of hunger from the bloom. The memory fades. You hear a sharp intake of breath from Makina. Somehow the bloom is shoving the memory into her too. Right under my nose, she whispers. I had her right in front of me. All this time, all this time. The heart offers no explanation as to why it showed you this memory, but the implication is clear. The Memavira is merely a disguise, a mask that conceals the first cast-off. She has been alive, hiding behind a false identity for years. The bloom tongues slide painlessly out of your body, setting you free. They show no further interest in you, and the whispering voices are gone from your mind. Mazov rises, clutching himself, and he abruptly vomits a clot of black fluid onto the glistening flesh beneath his feet. Small red wounds mar the flesh between the wires crisscrossing his skin. Gods, he growls. Gods. He looks up at you. His mechanical eye sockets spin, wheels within wheels, focusing on your face. You're the cast-off that was riding Zerian Daywalker. What the hell are you doing down here? How do you recognize me? Muscle movements, he says, grimacing. Small variations in expression, as good as a signature for those who know what to look for. He coughs more of the black fluid against the back of his wrist. You didn't answer me. What are you doing down here? I thought I was rescuing someone named Ishan, but you are here instead. Yeah, that's me, he says. It's a nickname, short for Ishanazar, because I look like one, whatever it is. But no one calls me that except... He pauses, smirks. The first sent you, didn't she? Not surprised. She won't be getting the resonance chamber working on her own. It's all too easy to destroy the damn thing if you don't know what you're doing. Something about the word said in his voice stirs a memory in you. Resonance chamber, resonance chamber. The sensation builds. He winces, teeth clenched. Gods, the bloom is a terrible host. Stuck its damn tongues into my guts to force feed me, filled my lungs with bile. Not sure what you did to get me out, but thank you. He spits a black-tinged wad of phlegm over his shoulder. Well, how do we get out of here? She's waiting, and you know how she is. Hold on, how did you end up a prisoner to begin with? The bloom took me, he says with a careless shrug. Not a surprise, it's not happy with the first, but you probably already know that. So it took me because it knows I'm important to her, he says casually and without the faintest hint of pride. Anyway, I should get back to the first. She's going to be, he waves a hand, well, you know. I don't know, actually. I thought I was working for the Numenéra until just a few minutes ago. His expression goes wooden. Skist, he says, rubbing his forehead. Look, don't tell her I said anything. I don't need anyone shouting at me right now, let alone her. This is the worst headache I've ever had. But a headache is uncoiling through your head now as well. Alarm spreads over Mazov's face, and he reaches out to catch you as you topple forward. You're underwater. The fading pulse of a sonar alarm ripples through the water, then is gone. An invisible pressure crushes your body, squeezing your head. A gibber with the cast-off's tattoo rises from the dark to confront you. I should have known. You need something of ours to finish your resonance chamber, don't you, father? He regards you with scorn. You haven't learned anything. You would sacrifice all of us for a chance at survival. You and the first. Pride blinds both of you. You're wrong, Tom, you snarl. Yet his words frighten you. Is he saying Marilel's alive with her own plan to stop the sorrow? She must be stopped. Any plan of hers would be dangerous. I've built the resonant chamber to save us all, you say. It is the power to weaken the sorrow. I can kill the creature. A half-truth. The chamber certainly has the power, but who knows if it would be enough to kill. Will you apologize to me then, selfish child? Will you beg my forgiveness?
Making a note.
You lie. You always have, Tom says calmly. Although your motives differ, Marilel's plan and yours will result in the same end. The destruction of every last cast-off. I will not allow this to happen. He makes a complicated gesture with his fingers, and the pressure on your head increases. Tom's voice grows muffled and fades as your mind, your sire's consciousness, flees his imprisoned body, abandoning it to the gibber in favor of a new host. You return to consciousness, the headache fading, and your mouth tastes of seawater or blood. Light and wet heat bathes the side of your face as the bloom opens a trans-dimensional portal. You can't be sure where it leads, but it's certainly your only way out. Someone, Mazov, is bracing you and holding you up. Are you all right? Mazov, what is the first plan with the chamber? To sever the... He gives you an odd look. You know, maybe you should ask her. I don't know enough about what's going on here. Just know that it'll free us from the sorrow, without sucking us all into someone else's mind. That should be enough. He shrugs. She can't do it without me, though. I best be getting back. Patting you awkwardly on the shoulder, he limps past you into the portal and vanishes. It is only when he's gone that you see the glittering contours of a small object lying where Mazov was standing. A Meercaster. It must have fallen from Mazov's pockets. You wipe the slime from the joints of the machine and add it to your belongings.
Making a note.
Right, well I guess that's what the next video is going to be about.